All right. Welcome, everyone. So happy that you're able to join us today. We're really excited to share the answers to all your questions about project proposals in our information session. So I'm Stacey Breslin, the Director of Staff and Faculty Health and Wellbeing and the Healthy UC Davis lead. And I'll have the team here that's going to help with this information session introduce themselves as well, starting with Connie Tan, the Program Coordinator.
Names and new faces. My name is Connie and I'm the program coordinator for Health at UC Davis. And I'll pass it over to Hia.
Hi everyone, I'm Hia and I'm an undergraduate student and I'm one of the student assistants for Healthy UC Davis. And I'll pass it to Amelia.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Amelia George Sheehers. I am a project manager for Understudent Affairs for the Equity and Mental Health Funding, and I will pass it to Sandy.
Hi everyone, I'm Sandy Campos. I am the Assistant Director of Grants and Finance for Division of Resources, and I will be your go-to person for the Equity and Mental Health Funds. And I will pass it on to Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah Thurston. I am the Senior Budget Analyst for FOA Business Partners, specifically Healthy UC Davis. And I look forward to answering all of your budget questions.
All right, thank you. So we'll just get started. Today's agenda, check, introductions done. I'm going to briefly go over a Health UC Davis background very briefly. And then Connie's going to get into a little bit of the details of the overview of each opportunity that we have available, the application components, walk you through the website a bit. And then we've got Sandy and Sarah here to talk about budgeting advice and campus policies. And we'll end up with some opportunities to get involved and hopefully have a good amount of time for some question and answers for you all. So a little bit about Health UC Davis for some of you that may not be familiar. Health UC Davis was an initiative that began out of the Office of the President in 2017. So back then, they gave each UC campus a small amount of startup funds to start what they called their Healthy Campus Network. And we ended up calling our chapter Healthy UC Davis. And we brought in a lot of stakeholders and partners. You'll see those in the circle. And we've continued to build with those partners and stakeholders and really just add to that. So after our pilot year of funding some phenomenal projects, some of which are still out there now, we received 5 more years of funding to continue our work. So this part, the mission, vision, and goals will be particularly helpful for when applying for one of our grants. So the vision of Health UC Davis is to make UC Davis the healthiest community in the nation. But the mission is really to champion the thriving culture of health and well-being throughout the UC Davis community. And that includes staff, students, academics, the Sacramento campus, the Davis campus, remote sites, really anyone affiliated with UC Davis. So we really tried to have a broad reach. And the projects we fund, we really tried to see if we can really reach all community members. Our strategic goals to accomplish the mission are to create comprehensive, integrative, and collaborative leading practice initiatives. We want to provide UC Davis community members with all the support, opportunities, information, and tools to engage in healthy behaviors. We work on advocating for any policies and institutional practices and built environment that promotes health and well-being. And then we're always trying to continuously examine, implement, and evaluate our practices and that improve the well-being of our community. And then lastly, really trying to align communication resources around health and well-being to ensure that we're all coordinated in our outreach efforts. We began funding projects very specific to these focus areas. Since our first initial funding time, though, we've sort of moved into more projects that hit priority areas. And so the focus areas are nutrition and food, physical activity, mental and emotional health and well-being, and smoke and tobacco free. And then after our 2019 strategic planning session, we really started to delve into more work into communications, DEI, leadership support, metrics, working on physical space and policy. So these were more priorities that came up after 2019. And just to give you all a little bit of sort of examples of projects that have been funded in the past by the steering committee. So for mental and emotional well-being, you'll see a list here. This isn't exhaustive, but you may have seen our open access resources library. That's one of the oldest projects that's still up and going on our website. So that provides a lot of mental and emotional well-being resources for everyone. Manager and supervisor mental health trainings was another one of our original projects. And then we've tried to fund projects that focus on basic needs as well. Food and nutrition, physical activity, communications and reach, and the campus environment. So many of you might be familiar with the walking loops that you've seen on campus. Some of these projects are more visible than others, but all have been making a really great impact on campus. And you can find the campus impact reports on our website as well that sort of describe the project and how they measured their success. And I'm going to turn it over to Connie to go over this proposal period that we have going on right now.
Great, thanks, Stacy. So we are launching our biannual call for project proposals, or I should say we have launched. And so you saw on the last slide, we had a variety of projects. We did do a little inventory and we learned that we have funded 30 projects with over 48 student interns, student assistants, and graduate student researchers involved. So a lot of the projects are overseen by staff and faculty, and we love to have students join in on those efforts. So we have 2 types of available funding opportunities and 3 total grant types. So I will go over those shortly. So this is our Healthy UC Davis project grants. These are projects of all sizes will be considered. They should support current UC Davis affiliates, like Stacy had mentioned, academic staff, students across all of the different UC Davis locations, address our Healthy UC Davis strategic goals, which you saw in an earlier slide. This year, we are giving special consideration to projects that focus on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as equity and student mental health. These proposals are reviewed by a proposal review committee made up of graduate students, undergraduates, staff, and faculty. The applications are open now and close at 5 p.m. on Friday, February 17th. We have another bucket of funds that fit under equity and mental health focus. So any project that would like to apply for these specific funds should address equity and mental health for students and consider one or more of the following. So directly supporting underserved students, promoting a culture of well-being on campus, promoting student academic success, and providing clear, measurable outcomes. And these are the 2 types of funding opportunities that we have that fit under this equity and mental health bucket. So the first one you'll see will fund up to $20,000. However, supplemental funding will be available if needed. It's open to all UC Davis affiliates to apply, and those who are part of student affairs units are strongly encouraged to apply as well. These will also be reviewed by proposal review committee, and they also have the same deadline of 5 p.m. on Friday, February 17th. One that is coming soon, and we're working really hard on this one. This one is going to be open only to UC Davis students. So hopefully all of you here today, we are just going to briefly mention this, but we would like you to share this opportunity widely once it becomes available. Students can apply for up to $5,000. This one's reviewed by actually a team of students under the Council on Student Affairs and Fees, which is COSAF, and they will be accepted throughout the academic year on a rolling basis. So that is coming soon. Okay, so in all of these grants, the application is very similar and they all contain all of these components. So of course, we'd love to know who you are, give us your contact information and all of your co-applicants. Strategic priorities, the alignment with Healthy UC Davis's strategic goals, And the background, specific aims and evidence to support your project. You know, why is it needed and now? Do you have any data to support it or best practices, information regarding your project? Any DEI goals and objectives that your project may meet. Any equity and mental health objectives your project may meet if it's applicable to your goals. A detailed budget spreadsheet, and I put a little star here. So this is an Excel spreadsheet, and you would need to fill it out separately to the application and then email it to us. The impact, long and short term, the sustainability. So thinking ahead a little bit. So your project may be up to 2 years long may take up to 2 years long to complete. But thinking about, you know, what would happen after the funding has been used up, after those 2 years, let's say, where would this project live and how do you foresee it continuing on? Any partners that are going to help you in the project, and your plans to evaluate the outcomes of your project. Okay, and now I'll do a really quick walkthrough of our webpage. So give me a second here. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing this Healthy UC Davis page. And so our website is healthy.ucdavis.edu. If you haven't been here already, this is our landing page for this campus-wide initiative. You'll see here a banner for Healthy UC Davis project grants. So you can actually click through here, or you can go under Get Involved and apply for funding right here. On this page, you'll see some quick links to move around a little faster, some background, and we actually list out the 3 opportunities here so you can learn more. There's a nice comparison chart actually as well that you may find useful, so we recommend that you check this out. You can download our flyer, so if you'd like to spread more information about this opportunity to any of your audiences or people that you work with, we recommend sharing the flyer. And of course, you're already here at our info session. This is where the recording will be posted. So if you check back after today, you'll see it posted there, so you can refer back to it. And then we have a link to our previously funded projects. So you'll see some more detailed information about those projects that Stacy shared in a previous slide. When you do click through these 2, they actually go to the same website. And you'll find a lot more information about, you know, application considerations when you submit your application and after you apply. We also have some information about budget and funding. We don't want it to be a barrier to your project, and we do have some advice here, and we're going to talk about that shortly in the next few slides. We do have some more background and information about equity and mental health. So if that is the project funding pool that you want to go for, you can learn more about that here. One thing I wanted to just quickly jump down to is when you are ready to submit your application, just note there is a preview, so you can complete this with your team prior to actually submitting the application through Qualtrics. And then just note here, the budget template is linked on this page. It's also linked within the application, so you should have ready access to it, and then just remember to send it to us. And I'll get back to the presentation, and I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Okay, so when you submit your budget, the Excel spreadsheet, how do you get caught up here? You're going to itemize everything. So in the template, you'll see the different sections that you would need to list, and you would, just as we have examples here. So this is going to be an example of a physical project. So it's going to be like restoring or improving or actual physical services, something along with a space. So you would list out all of your various materials, the different transportation fees. You're going to list out any labor that may apply. So that could be labor to set it up or, you know, build it. It could also, you're going to list out all of the various communication devices that you'd need, be that graphic design or flyers printed, anything like that nature. You'd also then do any other sort of like costs that are associated with this. Also keep in mind that you're going to want to cover your labor. So not just contract labor, but labor for, whatever effort the project leads are going to be putting into this. So you would itemize all of those. So that's example 1. And then in our second example, this is an example of a digital project. So these are going to be different outreach programs or digital services, etc. In this example, we've got student labor that would, the hours times their wage. We have some contract labor, again, some communication costs. So this would be either print or digital media, things like image licenses, domain fees. If you, have to pay a portion of a technology license, something along that way. And you would also list those things here for the different software, and then you'd have it totaled. That. And for labor, I did mention that you're going to need to make sure you consider all labor costs. So these are some helpful tips. If you are planning a multi-year project, so you have up to 2 years to spend your funding, then you want to consider, if it's going to cross over fiscal years, increasing your labor by 4%. That's our recommended midpoint. If you have a specific labor or represented union employee that you are using, then you can use those numbers. But if you're unsure, 4% is sort of a good middle ground. And don't forget to increase your student cost. We are recommending 2.6% to cover both benefits and other insurances. We recommend that you start at midpoint for any career employees that you'd be listing or would need for your project. And then if you are using students, such as graduate students or student assistants, please reach out to your fiscal officer for more detailed advice, because graduate students can come with tuition costs, student assistance, depending on the level of student that you're hiring. All of those things could change the total cost for labor there. There's also some additional resources that you can go on to the web, the UC Davis website, the career employee salary scale. We've listed the link for you here. And then there is the student assistant wage increases as of January 1st this year. So minimum wage now, I believe, is $15.50. And so just be aware of that cost, that it's possible that students may earn more in next January. So another cross-year item to consider. And then some extra budgeting advice that we have for you. Please don't forget to factor in all of your taxes on eligible purchases. So the city of Davis is currently at 2.25%, but purchases that are delivered to an on-campus address are 7.25%. Please do not forget shipping costs for eligible things. There may be unexpected costs, such as maybe you have shipping and handling fees. You got a quote, but now when you've put in the actual purchase, maybe prices increased or changed for some reason, or possibly there was some other cost that you didn't consider originally. So we just would like everybody to consider some sort of contingency to cover unexpected costs in that sense. Also, companies and vendors would be more than willing to provide you quotes, and those can be performed electronically most of the time or through a simple phone call. And often quotes are good for 30 to 60 days, depending on the vendor. So that could save you from incurring unexpected costs as well, if you can lock in a quote and use that. And then I guess I will hand this back over to Connie or Stacy.
On-campus policies that we hope your projects will meet and abide by. And so that is the UC Davis Principles of Community, the UC Davis Policies and Procedures, UC Davis or UC Standards of Ethical Conduct, and the conflict of interest code. Digital projects, I know we had an example for that, a budgeting example. So if you are planning to have a digital project, just note that at UC Davis, they're under high scrutiny due to campus policies. You may need to undergo a vendor risk assessment process. And so sometimes that can take up to maybe 6 months to even a year, depending on what is the information that you would like to collect from your participants. And I noticed that we didn't write out the links here, but I'll be sure to have the document as well, in addition to the recording on our website. So you can click through. Okay, and finally, if this is your first time learning about Healthy UC Davis, we encourage you to get involved. Of course, you've visited our main page when I shared that with you, but in addition to learning more about the proposals, you can find a resource to support your health and well-being. You can read about our projects and programs, which we encourage you to do to get some inspiration or see what is it that we funded in the past. You can also join our steering committee or work group. So the steering committee meets monthly and work groups meet as needed, and usually they meet monthly though. You can also share your feedback with us. We have a nice feedback form, and we love to hear from you to see what a healthy campus looks like to you. And you can follow us on Instagram at Healthy UC Davis. We have we have a student dedicated to promoting all of our efforts on social media. So we encourage you to follow that. And if you have any questions, be sure to contact us, healthy@ucdavis.edu. We've already gotten a few questions in, and so we're excited to learn more about what you're hoping to do, and very happy to help with any questions you might have. Okay, so it's time to ask us your questions. I'll be sure to let you all unmute, and you can feel free to also submit any questions in chat if that's easier for you. Okay, yeah, Rosalie.
Hi, Connie. I had a quick question. So I was wondering if events qualify for this grant.
Yeah, they would. Does anybody, Stacy, do you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, and are you specifically asking about the Healthy UC Davis grants or the Equity and Student Mental Health grants? In any case, both of them would fund an event, honestly. So yeah, just make sure when you're doing your budget that you're, as specific as possible about the rental space that you might need, the staffing you might need, that sort of thing.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of event space, if we already had a club on campus, would we be allowed to use their free hour space? Like, for example, how different clubs have like 3 or 4 hours per quarter free. Would we be allowed to use that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can also note, I think, I'm pretty sure on our budget spreadsheet, we have an in-kind section. So you can put that, since it would be a question probably for the proposal committee when they see the application. If you're planning an event, but you don't put the rental costs in there, we would question, well, where would this be held and how much would that be? But if you put it in the in-kind section, at the bottom of the spreadsheet, that's perfect.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, I see Jaylee.
Yeah, I had a question. It sounds like there's, could be a bit of a dialogue with the committee about things that you want to see in the application. Would that happen after the application is submitted, or should we reach out and try to run a draft by someone there on the grant committee?
That's a good question. You're welcome to run anything by us. I think we would be happy to help make any application more successful. But there will definitely be a dialogue process afterwards. The proposal committee will meet at least 2 or 3 times. And so we'll go back and forth with the applicants as well with any questions we might have. So the application is not the end all be all. There will be a little bit of conversation afterwards. But yes, please feel free to reach out to us because I think we're all happy to help. We want to make these proposals and projects as successful as possible.
about the staged part.
Cool. You wanna ask?
I'm curious, you said that this funding is going to be available now for the next 5 years, and I'm wondering, is there the space to think about a staged project where it happens in phases over the next several years? Like applying
yeah,
again, and yeah.
that is a good question too. So the grant funding right now is good for 2 years for this project, and the 5-year funding actually was given out in 2018. So we are on the tail end of that 5 years. We are hopeful that we will get funded for another 5 years or permanently, but we have not heard word yet on that.
I guess related to that, we're considering applying for a project that's got multiple components to it. So trying to get people outside involves, some pathways, also signage, and for, inclusion and accessibility. Is it better from the committee's perspective to submit an application for a larger project with multiple components, or to think about kind of dividing those up, either into the sort of different categories of the project or by different spaces, like if we're partnering across, different spaces that we're connecting up in a neighborhood?
So if I understood you right, you're wanting to potentially apply for the entire project, or just single out a certain section of it that you would send to our funding process. Is that right? Or
Yeah, or so at the Sustainable Living Learning Communities, we're made up of like 7 partner communities.
Mhm.
And so I guess the question is, should we apply as a group for like a large project for connectivity? Or would it be better for, each member group to kind of apply for their own component? How does that work?
That's a good question. I don't know, Sarah or Sandy, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I'm thinking if each component is sort of an individual project that would produce a result, but they all work together, like the umbrella project entirety makes it like a whole thing, but within each component, one thing could, be like if one is just signage, or one is like clearing pathways, or if maybe one is getting information out about healthy eating, something along that nature or line, then I would think that if you had other partners that could, take a component on, then I would submit just the component pieces to the program grant that you would need assistance with financially. That's when I'm thinking it'd be easiest to break down in that sense. But if it's something where all components are contingent upon another component, then I would suggest submitting the project as a whole and notifying, like within your budget, like this is, for this piece, this is for this piece. And then we can try to break it down behind the scenes afterwards. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you.
And we have used the Healthy UC Davis funding sometimes to fund portions of a larger project. So the menstrual health equity project, for example, we funded the materials that they stocked the bathrooms with, right? So we didn't fund the entire project, but we funded a portion of it. Same with the Resilience Through project that we worked on with student health. So that's an opportunity too.
I would also add that this is a reimbursement grant, so that's something to take into consideration, that you would have to incur the expense and then invoices for it. So the bigger the project, the more money you would have to put up front. That's also something.
Okay, that's good to know.
That's not a minor detail.
If there was a large component of, let's say that grounds was installing a portion of the grant, could that be invoiced directly to the grant, or would that still need to get routed through that?
That could be invoiced directly, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
I think we have a couple questions in chat that I want to try and get to too. Which ones haven't we?
I do see a question about an event that's taking place as April qualifies. So the funding would begin July 1st of 2023. So an event, anything would have to take place after that date. to qualify. I don't have the time.
Katie, have your hand raised.
Yeah, so I'm from the MedCenter campus, and thank you for answering my question about whether we could apply for funding. My follow-up question is is this primarily for staff and faculty members, or is this something that the funding can benefit patients?
That is a really good question. So Healthy UC Davis funding has typically only been spent on UC Davis affiliates. So students, staff, academics related to that either work for or attend UC Davis. We have had projects in the past apply for more community or patient facing projects. Those ones aren't typically funded. Just the funding source that we have, the title of it is the Employee Support Fund. So you can kind of imagine like it's based for, or it's meant for our community, less so for the patients or the outside community, I guess you could say.
Okay, that makes sense.
We'd love to get to the place where we could do more of those though.
Okay, thanks.
Enough time to draft a proposal for this cycle. So would there be a next round for these grants? And if so, when? And I think that is still, we're not sure yet, right, Stacy? I think we're going to figure out, of course, we got that funding in 2018 for 5 years. And so we are at the tail end of that. And so we're hoping to continue them on, but we're not quite sure yet.
I think it's also important to note what grant you're applying for. So if you're doing a student grant, then that's
a great point, Sarah. So the equity, the student equity and mental health grants, that is ongoing funding that is secure. So if you're looking for a mental health project for students, that is a great place to go. Yeah, and that would be available in future years for sure. I'm looking through the chat. Are there any other questions that we haven't gotten to yet, or that you may have that we can answer or help answer?
Sorry, I have one more question.
Yeah, please.
So I teach the Reiki class over here at UC Davis, and I provide Reiki and art therapy for patients, but I constantly am getting requests to be expanding services for staff. And I think Reiki is something that aligns really well with a lot of the philosophies in this grant. I'm a little stuck though, whether I would apply for the Healthy UC Davis project versus the mental health grant, just because they're so closely connected, and I can't really decipher whether I want to approach this from a wellness mental health issue or a physical wellness. I don't know if you, and I know you provided other projects, but I'm not sure which category those projects fell into.
Yeah, you're probably not alone with that. A lot of the projects will cross over. So what we've talked about, this is the first year that we've included the student mental health equity granting at the same time as the Healthy UC Davis grant. So we're trying this out also as our first year. So we're going to be probably writing in some bumps and figuring out as we go along. But just on the back end, once we see the applications, I think we'll be able to help figure out how we would categorize these. I would just go ahead and put down probably one of the grants, one of the pathways that you'd like to pursue. And if it happens, say we run out of funds in that Healthy UC Davis pot, and there's still funds in the student mental health equity pot, and your project applies and hits all of those aspects as well, I think that's something that the proposal committee would probably look to see if we could actually fund out of that pot of money as well. Unless Amelia and Sarah and Sandy want to have something else to say about that, but
Sure. I was actually going to just add another thing, Stacy. So when applying for funding, I think we have the preview that kind of goes over the entire application before even opening up Qualtrics. And there's a question in there that asks specifically, does your project address equity and mental health? And if you answer that question and describe how that is, it has a, then ask you a few additional questions. And so I think as long as you say yes to that question, and then in the application, it obviously shows that it is addressing equity and mental health, then you would be considered for potentially both funding pots. So it's incredibly important for you to select yes to that question, because if not, I mean, again, on the back end, we're going to be looking at it anyways, just in case somebody accidentally missed it and clicked no, but definitely press yes, and then you would be considered either way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. Yes.
Can I ask one quick follow-up to that? If I understand, you would submit one and make sure and check that box, not submit one to both.
The application is the same there, but so, yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Available. So we're going to download and try to caption today and tomorrow, and then hopefully by the end of the day on Monday, it'll be available on our website to watch and download.
Could I follow up with one question on that one, is to request that you make sure and include the a PDF of the presentation that has the hyperlinks active?
Yes,
okay,
I will do that. Yeah. We still have about 10 minutes. Feel free to ask us. Can utilize the chat as others have done. Otherwise, just be sure to take down our email address here. Can ask us more questions there.
Yeah, and please reach out to us with any questions or any help you want for on your application. We're really happy to help. The projects, the proposals that we get, it's one of the best times. Like, we find lots of great ideas, and it's great to hear from the community what they think might be effective and helpful. So we're really excited to help and support the next couple of years.
In terms of salary, or I know on this FAQs, you talk about non-student payroll or benefits not being able to be funded. So when you're thinking about, I know you mentioned like in the budget, including contractors and contractor fees. So how does that fall in?
Yeah, so typically Healthy UC Davis funds have not been available for staff salaries or academic stipends. However, it's my understanding that the student equity and mental health funding is available or can be spent on staff salaries. So there's a little bit of distinction between the two, and that's part of the bumpy road of trying to merge the two efforts. But so vendors, yes, if there's a cost for a vendor or a contractor for something you're doing, but a staff member cannot, insofar as we've gotten direction, we cannot fund staff salaries or academic stipends with the Healthy UC Davis funds. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Sandy or Sarah, correct me if I was wrong on that, but.
No, you're right. I would recommend that if you can stay away from salaries, that's probably the best, because it'll allow you to do more with the money, and it'll cause you less headaches when trying to track it. But if it is necessary and you need help figuring out the difference, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, a lot of the funds for the projects, though, so a lot of the projects take labor time. Student assistants, MPH students, grad students, we've funded many of their positions to help us with these projects. And it's been a great experience for them, a learning experience, and it's a great help for us to get the project accomplished and completed. So we highly encourage hiring students with the funds, and that's widely supported. Any question, big or small? Throw them our way.
Well, I don't see anything coming through chat. I think we will conclude this webinar then, or this info session. Thank you all for joining us. Of course, you should remember our email address, healthy@ucdavis.edu. We hope to post the slides or a PDF version of the slides, including the recording, have it on our website, healthy.ucdavis.edu. Reach out to us if you have any questions. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our presenters as well for giving us your time today. Thanks.